But I mean, here's the crux of the matter. Stabilized anamorphic footage shot in Blackmagic RAW, all for less than the price of a red Komodo body. So I'm very excited to talk to you about this new setup because it has expanded my tool belt like crazy. And I promise there will be a lot more footage about the lens itself, the camera body, how we use all of this in our videos and everything. So if you enjoy this, please take a second to subscribe below, hit that little bell notification, and come on, grow with us. Let's have some fun. Now, if you want to get straight to the footage, just check the timestamps below, and you can go watch what I shot on this earlier today. But if you want to hang around for a couple minutes and, listen to me talk about the setup, we all might learn something together. So that's what's coming up now. In most cases, handheld gimbals are not meant to hold rigs this big. That's why you've probably seen footage of me in some of our earlier videos wearing a big old ready rig with a DJI Ronin 2 holding a larger camera. And it's a great setup, but it's big and it's heavy and it's expensive. So when DJI announced that the RS2 would hold up to 10 pounds, I realized that I could genuinely fly a professional setup that gave me all the manual control that I typically want on a handheld gimbal that would allow me to drastically reduce the size of my kit and general footprint for a lot of shoots. So SmallRig has actually developed a bunch of pieces of kit for the RS2 to help fly larger rigs like this. And as soon as I found that out, I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy these all immediately. And I did. And the problem is I still don't have them because they, I guess, are back ordered, or maybe I really just pre-ordered them and I didn't know it. Either way, I don't have those pieces yet, and I'm excited about them because they will help me do some things more easily. However, I did get this entire rig to work with just what comes in the DJI RS2 Pro combo, which apparently is also pretty hard to find too. So I guess I should just be grateful that I have this at all and stop worrying about all of the emails I get from SmallRig saying, hey, your stuff's not ready yet. One thing I will say though, I did have to make small concessions in getting this to work. For instance, the focus motor is not tall enough to reach the focus ring on the lens. So I actually had to tilt the focus rod a bit up using only one screw. So slightly less stable, but it works. I didn't have any problems pulling focus, which I'll get to in a second. And it probably just kind of goes to reinforce my theory that no matter how professional your setup, something's going to be duct taped. Something's going to be bent in a way that probably isn't supposed to be in order just to make it work. I don't know. I've never been on a set where everything was just like as the manufacturer intended. But hey, we all do what we got to, and that's a pretty small concession on my part in order to get this thing to fly. So, okay, so here's a quick rundown of what's on the rig. Obviously, Blackmagic Pocket 4K, the camera that launched 1,000 short films. It's an amazing camera, and it is wrapped in a SmallRig cage that also has a little cable clamp because #safety. And there's a Camvate cheese plate underneath there, which I'll explain about more later on in another video about why this setup works and how it's important. That's all attached. Well, I was going to say this is attached to that, but if you went by weight, the camera is attached to this delicious Vazen 40mm T2 1.8x anamorphic lens. It is a beautiful, beautiful lens. And at the end of this lens, we've got a wooden camera Zipbox Pro with, earlier in the day, I had a Schneider ND filter in there because I was outside shooting in the bright, bright sunlight. I took that off for the shots that I just took, but yes, I have it set up to where I can put some filters in front of it if I need to. Oh, and last but not least, I have an NPF battery on here mounted to the side that powers the camera for longer than the 8 seconds that the internal LP batteries power it for. It's not true. It's like 30 minutes. I honestly probably could have gotten all the footage I got today with just the battery, but I wanted to rig this up so I show anybody who's interested in powering their camera that it does indeed work this cable hanging off is not a problem, though I probably will get a longer one in the future. But it does cover like 95% of the shots that I get, and it doesn't like pull the camera in any weird way. So this is also a small rig. It's great. There's 2 ports on the side. I love it. I can power my monitor with it as well, which I will also be doing when I add a monitor to the other side. I digress. That's the setup. For those of you who are curious, this whole setup is about 8 pounds, which means I've actually got about 2 more pounds to work with if I need to add something like counterweights. I'm actually really excited. I've got the DJI 3D focus module, #back ordered, which I will eventually add onto this rig as well. And then in case I wanted to add anything else, like another filter or whatever. So I've actually still got about 2 pounds to work with. But to be honest, I was never really worried about the weight of this rig and this gimbal when I started doing the research about how much, the gear actually weighed. It was more about the size, like the length and balancing it and where the center of balance was going to be. And if I could, clear these arms, which I can, yeah, woo. So that was more my concern. But yeah, I still got about 2 pounds to work with if I want. So just a heads up, we will be using this setup for a significant portion of some of our upcoming music videos. So there will definitely be an opportunity for y'all to see this, put together in a real life scenario with a professional product at the end of it. But that's still in pre-production, and I didn't want to wait that long to show you guys some footage. So I went out today to the park and then later just around the neighborhood, and I got some footage because I'm impatient and I like talking about gear. So the stuff you're about to see is, just out and about amateur stuff. And in the coming weeks, you'll actually be able to see this whole thing in a more professional context. That being said, let's look at some of the footage. All of this footage was shot in Blackmagic RAW 4K DCI at 4500 Kelvin and 0 tint. The lens was at a t2.8 for most of the shots. I do like to leave myself a little bit of room on the aperture. I manually de-squeezed it in post. I didn't color correct or grade any of the footage, but I did convert it to an ACES color space, which is why it looks, nice and colorful. #love ACES. I did reduce the contrast a bit on some of the daytime shots at the park, mostly just as a stylistic choice. I thought it was a little drab outside and I thought it should look drab. The first thing about this rig is that even though it fits on a gimbal, it is still heavy, and you do notice it after several minutes. I found the briefcase handle attachment super helpful, not just for getting low shots, but for like my own stamina. I also have the new Tilta ring grip coming so that I can use it with my steady rig on longer shoots. But again, #back ordered. As for the most important part, how does the gimbal actually stabilize the footage? In a word, nicely. You will absolutely need to tune up the gimbal, dial up the stiffness, and attach the included lens support in order to get the most stable shots out of this whole thing. I definitely pushed the motors pretty hard on this thing, but it only really gave me a fuss once, and to be honest, it was kind of my fault. I didn't test the active track while actively using this, but I played around with it on the table at home and it worked exactly as you would expect it to. The focus motor pulled the focus really nicely, but even on the fastest setting, I found that I couldn't use the dial on the front of the RS2 to pull focus from up close to infinity in one pull. This, of course, has to do more with the huge focus ring on the lens itself, but that's going to be pretty consistent across most cinema lenses. So I'm hoping the new 3D focus system will help me alleviate some of those problems if I do have to go from up close to an infinity focus in a fairly quick shot. Otherwise, potentially getting somebody to pull focus from their iPhone or iPad using the Raven Eye system could be a fix. I think you can do it. I haven't actually tested that. Like, I've pulled out the Raven Eye, but can you pull focus on the Raven Eye? Either way, I hope so. If not, please do that as an update. And if so, that will fix my problem of not being able to pull close to infinity focus with one finger thing. Overall, I'm incredibly happy with this rig, even if I did have to make a few concessions to get it set up the way that I wanted to. And even if there are a couple things that I'll still need to kind of tweak in the future, it's so nice. The footage is so great. And I'm excited about all of the things that I can potentially make with this as is. And then as some of the additional, pieces of kit come out for it, including the car mounts and, the extension handles to mount to jibs and stuff. Like, it's just going to be so amazing to be able to use all those fun little tools at a really, for what most professionals would consider affordable price. But I mean, here's the crux of the matter. Stabilized anamorphic footage shot in Blackmagic RAW, all for less than the price of a red Komodo body. Yeah, it's a darn good time to be a filmmaker. So like I said, there's going to be a lot more footage around this rig. There's going to be more behind the scenes of us actually using this on the set. And there's going to be, the actual finished products that you'll be able to see. So I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to leave any questions in the comments below and I will try to get to them. And until next time, happy creating.